What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Cervantes podcast. Joining me today to discuss rising anti-Semitism in the U.S., misconceptions about Jewish people, diversity within the community, the Holocaust, and whether or not being Jewish is a religious ethnicity, is community health major and disability specialist peer educator at Hofstra University, Margo Latty, Springfield College alum and certified athletic trainer at Mamaroneck High School, Shayna Goldfarb, and former educator at Temple Beth Israel in Port Washington and Hofstra University alum, Sofia Ramirez. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Good. Good.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Can you explain your background and did you grow up always having a sense of pride in your Jewish identity? I'll start with Sophia.
So I actually didn't know that I was Jewish until I was 10 because I'm from a Puerto Rican family and my mother is Jewish, but both my parents are Puerto Rican. So I wasn't the one with the original like interfaith kind of conflict. It was my mother. And when I was growing up, I fully thought I was Puerto Rican Catholic until I was 10 years old. So I definitely didn't like grow up originally with that pride, but then and even like when I not like converted because it still counts if your mother is Jewish, but when I became observantly Jewish, I was faced with a lot of discrimination and hatred and issues. So I honestly don't think that I felt pride in my Jewish identity until I was either like late teens or even like early like college life when I was able to figure out what it meant to me.
Okay. And you, Shayna?
Both my parents are Jewish. Went to a private day school until high school. Was in sleepaway camp that was Jewish, day camp that was Jewish, temple every weekend. So Judaism was like thrown at me and shoved down my throat from a very young age till I was in high school. So there was like no option but to take pride in it, which was fine. And I was in a community that was pretty much all Jewish. But as I got older and I like discovered how I wanted to be Jewish in my own way, I definitely did take pride in it differently than how I did when I was younger.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And you, Margot?
So I have grew up in a multicultural household. I'm Christian and I'm Jewish, and I have two moms. And I technically got my Jewish side from my donor, but since I don't really care that it's my donor, my mother is Jewish, that means I am Jewish. I very much consider myself Jewish. I grew up, had my bar mitzvah, I went to Hebrew school. I did a lot of Jewish things growing up for the sake of my mom, so I could have, like, I didn't have her blood, so I wanted Judaism to be a way to connect with her. Um, so I've always just been like, I am Jewish. And like, I've never like, it's the same thing how I am with like other parts of me that is like a minority. Like, it is who I am. Like, if you have a problem with it, like, whatever. Like, I guess that's pride. But like, it's just like part of who I am. Um, but I mean, I've dealt with a lot of discrimination, as Sophia said, that like because I'm a person of color, I don't get considered a lot of times that I'm Jewish. The fact that I dropped out of Hebrew school, the fact that I didn't technically get I got my Judaism from like my donor. I get a lot of times told that like I'm a very bad Jew and all that type of stuff, and it hurts my feelings for sure, but it doesn't take away the fact that I am Jewish. So yeah.
I love that. You can't let anyone take that away from you. I love that. And it's so cool to hear like different stories. Because I think growing up, I think some people tend to experience one type of a religion and see only one type. And it's cool to see three very different types, because that's the world that we live in. According to an article from NPR back in December 2022, there has been a steady rise in the number of hateful incidents directed at Jewish people over the past several years. NPR's Lisa Hagen reported that according to the Anti-Defamation League, 2021 was the highest year on record for documented reports of harassment, vandalism, and violence directed against Jews. The watchdog group has tracked these incidents since 1979. In 2018, a gunman killed 11 Jewish worshippers at the Pittsburgh Tree of Life Synagogue. 2 years earlier, there was a deadly Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, where extremist demonstrators chanted "Jews will not replace us" during a torch-lit march. Anti-Semitism even shows up in politics. Donald Trump recently had dinner with musician Kanye West, who's made a number of anti-Semitic remarks, and Nick Fuentes, a notorious Holocaust-denying internet streamer. What goes through your mind when you see and hear about all of this?
Definitely hits close to home. I mean, over the high holidays, we all go to temple as a family, and walking in and seeing police officers that are there for safety, but the fact that they have to be there because of things that have happened in the past is just it's kinda scary. It's like, why should I have to have police officers and feel the need to have protection because it could be unsafe on, like, a holy holiday in the place that we go to pray? I feel like because it's such a small Jewish community, it really, like, it does hit home. Like, we knew people in Pittsburgh, we knew people all over the place, even if it's, like, not the ones directly who were in the incidences. Um, it kinda just makes you think, like, well, if it happened there, it can happen anywhere, and nobody is really protected from it, I guess.
Right. Right. That's so true. It's scary. Like going to church should be like something fun, something like positive. You shouldn't have to be escorted by police. Like that's I couldn't imagine what that feels like.
I don't feel safe going to temple, well, to synagogue because of police officers. I am black, and when I go with my mom, who's like my black mom, and like my white mom, I get really scared for my black mom. So I just, as much as like growing up there was such a like a place for me, I just don't really like going anymore. Because of everything that's going on, it hurts. And like, especially with the Kanye West situation that happened, like being a black Jew, I just felt like stuck in this crazy middle. And like, I felt like it's suffering by myself. Like I wanted to scream because it was just so like ignorant. And there was such a bigger divide between both of my communities of like who is more oppressed. And it's like, we're both oppressed. So, and
Right.
both. So, yeah, I just, was very much like, I just don't feel safe going. And every time I go into synagogue, I literally hold my breath. And when I pass by police officers and stuff like that, because there's a part of me that's like, what if they're come up to me and think that I don't belong here because I'm black? Or, you know, what if they come up to my mother or to my sister? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking, especially that part where you said about feeling stuck in the middle between like the black community and the Jews, because you're both. You can't really choose. But the social media and the internet and people like Kanye West will make you think you have to choose. And that sucks because and also being a black woman and then having LGBTQ parents, it's like a lot of minorities and intersectionalities here to to analyze and reflect on. And that can't be easy. That can't be easy. And you shouldn't have to pick a side.
Well, what Margo really said about, feeling like you need to choose a side really resonates. It's a really weird middle ground to have to be in, where you have to pick like which part of yourself you're going to present to the world. Because like a lot of the times, um, when people try to involve me in like certain discussions about Judaism and fear and anti-Semitism and hate crimes and things, I feel like what Mark was saying, like deciding which side is more pressed at the moment, like it's very awkward because it's like there are things that I can relate to with my fellow Jewish peers and things that I can relate to with my fellow people of color, women of color, Latinas, but those two like don't always coincide and there's not a lot of understanding. So for me, when I hear about an anti-Semitic attack, I feel sad, but I don't like it's weird. I don't feel scared for myself because the kind of attacks that I receive as a Jew is like, you're not Jewish, you're Puerto Rican. What is this? Like, what are you doing? Or like I know friends of mine who when there's security in front of a temple, Jews of color, like sometimes they get turned away. Sometimes the police officers that are meant to protect the Jewish community look at a Black Jew, an Asian Jew, a Hispanic Jew, and go, "What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be in this building. This is for Jewish people. You need to get out. You can't be in
Wow.
here." And they get turned off at the door. They get freaked out. Like, so not only are they not safe as Jews, they're not safe as people of color. And so what Margo is saying, like that police presence doesn't really feel like it's for everybody. And so it's hard to kind of walk that line and feel sympathy for one side for both sides at the same time in different moments because what you're saying about intersectionality, I fully understand that the police might make a lot of people feel safe, a lot of Jews of different backgrounds, but for Jews of color, it just means it's like one more person we have to explain ourselves to, one more person we have to defend ourselves against, one more time that we have to like beg somebody to believe that we're Jews. And what I never even understand in the first place is like it's definitely not easy being a Jew, and it's definitely not easy being a person of color, a woman of color. Why would I pretend to add another layer to my, to like oppression in my life? You know how easy it would be to walk around and be like, oh, I'm Puerto Rican and Catholic, this makes sense to everybody, like let's live my life. Why would I pretend to be a Jew? What's the merit in that? So for me, it's definitely odd because I feel sad, I feel heartbroken there, but I've never felt scared because I'm not identified as a Jew, because I don't fit the image and that mold that people decided a Jew is. I only feel scared once people know I'm Jewish or once people like don't believe me. So it's kind of odd.
Yeah, and that's so frustrating, because I can relate to that a little bit. I'm not Jewish, but people have an idea of what being Jewish looks like. People have an idea of what being Latino looks like. And whenever I'm like, oh, like I'm half Puerto Rican, people are like, really? I don't believe you. And I'm not fluent in Spanish, so then there's that too. But I can definitely relate, like trying to explain your identity to people. It's frustrating, especially when they're ignorant. Did anyone ever make you feel bad about being Jewish growing up?
Um, no, I don't really deal with anti-Semitism because I'm a person of color. They don't think that I'm Jewish. So for the own Jewish, actually, Jewish people are very discriminatory towards other Jewish people.
Okay.
I get crap from the Jewish community. Reform Jews get a lot of times being called that we're not real Jews. I have been called not a real Jew multiple times.
Can you
And
break that down? Sorry to interrupt. Can you break that down? The difference between like there's
yeah,
Reform, there's Hasidic, and I think there's another one, right?
so there's
Conservative.
conservative. So the Orthodox is like the ones that fully follow all of the Torah, the ones that have the like swirls here. I don't know how to describe. I don't know the names of any.
And it's
Yes.
it's called Payas, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The ones that, and then we got conservatives who like, and then we got reform, and then we got reconstructive, which reconstructive is the very like bottom of like following the Torah. Like it's very like a different form of Judaism. I'm a reform. I learned all of the different ones when I was in Hebrew school, and I have not been in Hebrew school in a very long time. So somebody else wants to explain the four parts, who know it better than me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I think all three of us kind of in our own way. I'm also reformed, so that's funny. So that I totally understand, like, one, they don't believe you're Jewish because you're a person of color, and two, they're like, oh, you're reformed, ick. Like that doesn't count. So I totally get that. Oh my God. And sometimes when people say it to me, I have to figure out like, okay, so are they being racist? Or are they just being disrespectful to the reformed Jewish community? Is it both? I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah,
so it's about like it's not about observancy, because we can all believe in God with the same amount of heart and faith, but it's about what sect of Judaism abides by the Torah as a letter of the law versus, like these stories are real, they happen, this is how we have to behave, versus they're like metaphors and to guide you. So it's like that. Because when I was a Hebrew school teacher, I worked in a conservative temple, and growing up in high school, I was in a Jewish youth organization that's pluralist, and Hillel and Hofstra is pluralist. So it's that just like is a mix of everything. And so Reform Jews, it's like you might not even be able to tell they're Jewish because they not all of us wear stars of David like I do, but I'm wearing a turtleneck, so it doesn't count. But like not all of us wear stars of David, or like I have tattoos, and having tattoos is against the Jewish religion. So Orthodox, Hasidic, and probably a lot of conservative people like would never have them. And so it's about like, do you follow every single biblical rule as fact, as law, or do you see it as that sort of guidance of, you know, my moral responsibility as a Jewish person, but that doesn't mean that I can't go and have the freedom as a human being, is how I would put it. But Shayna, if you want to add anything, I would love to learn from your perspective as well.
I mean, you did a really good job of describing that. I think just like an example that kind of makes it easier to understand. So like Shabbat, right? If you're Orthodox, you're like top Orthodox, you're walking to temple, you're not turning on any lights, you're not doing anything that's classified as work. So like writing anything down, driving in a car. Um, and then I grew up conservative, but like maybe a little higher end conservative. Like we went to temple every single Saturday, but we still used electronics. We drove, we did all that stuff. But then you can also be on like the lower end of conservative and like maybe you're just doing lighting the candles on Friday night and then you're not going to temple Saturday morning. And then Reconstruction, honestly, I'm not super familiar with it, but
Isn't it like on the newer end? Like I
yeah,
went
yeah,
high
I think
school.
it is. And it kind of is like you do, but you do you. Like
I
Okay.
mean, like
whatever
the
like you want
more
to take from it, you take
spiritual.
from it. I
What?
think so.
I think is Reconstructionist like I think they're the sect that's like they just see it as more spiritual, less religious.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I like didn't know about it till
No, me
That's
either.
so interesting. I'm learning a lot today. Learning a lot. I think
There's
that's cool. So
also
there's
like different temples. So like you can have a Reconstructionist temple, a Reformed temple, a conservative temple, an Orthodox temple. And like there are definitely like a lot of Orthodox people don't see conservative and Reformed and Reconstructionists as Jews, and that's like a huge issue amongst the Jewish community. I think a lot of them are just stuck in their ways. It would be great if like the whole Jewish community as one would be accepting of each other, so there wouldn't be like this rift between them.
right,
But
right. Like
you
it's
know,
okay to evolve. That's so
it's
interesting
right,
though. I
I
love
right.
that
feel
you
like
guys worked it down.
been very like it can be just very judgmental on like how you practice the religion. Like because I was told I was a very bad Jew because I dropped out of Hebrew school and I dropped out because of racism. So I was like, do you want me to deal with racism? Like I like confused. There was like, like a Trump supporter like spewing a little bit of hate and I was uncomfortable. So like I'm not like about to be in that space.
I don't blame you. That's terrible.
Yeah, like it's and then I'm like, you're a bad Jew, and I'm like, well, you don't see it in my point of view because you're like a white person telling me to, deal with it. But like, it's like if you don't follow it their way, or if it's not exactly their way, sometimes it's just not, you're
It's like
not,
you're immediately wrong.
yeah, you're really wrong. You're not a good Jew. And it hurts. Like being when I called it was called a bad Jew, like I hurt my feelings. Like I felt like I let down my mother and my grandmother and like my entire family. But like that's not reality. Like my mom didn't care. She was like, "Hey, you had a bar mitzvah. You don't even need to be here anymore." So,
You're legit.
you know,
Oh, that's so frustrating. And for you, Shayna, growing up, did anyone make you feel bad for being Jewish, or was it different because we're from New Rochelle, it's suburbs in Westchester, and there is a good like a big community Jewish community in New Rochelle. But was that difficult for you?
Growing up, no, because I didn't know anything else until I got to high school. But I mean, in private school, they taught you one way and they taught you one thing. And if you didn't agree with that, they're like, no, you're wrong. So, like, if you had a test and I was like, well, this is the answer for them, but it's not the answer for me. So, if I write my answer, I'm going to fail the test.
Wow.
Is the only thing I can kind of compare it to. But not until I got to college and I went to college in Massachusetts. And, like, the town itself had a big Jewish presence, but the college didn't. So, like, my friend group would crack jokes. Like, I never really took them seriously. I knew they were joking, and, like,
And you're pretty
we
chill.
crack yeah, like, we cracked jokes about this guy for something and this guy for something else, and my thing was, like, "You're the Jew." So, like, I never really
Okay.
took it to heart.
Yeah, you're pretty chill anyway, so things probably
Yeah.
don't get to you like that. But I think that's good that you're able to have that balance. I think it's tricky though when people make jokes with people that they aren't friends with, because then it's
Yeah.
like whoa, like I don't know you. Why are you joking about that? I can definitely relate to that being black. Like I didn't
Yeah.
tell you could say that.
You
So
know,
that's
they knew their boundaries.
that's good.
And,
That's
like,
true,
if they
yeah.
were crossed, then they knew.
Right, like don't go too far now.
mine experience is like the same but opposite of Margot. So like I joined my temple and I was immediately met with like racism and discrimination, but I didn't quit because they all quit. So like I joined my I joined this temple. So I joined this temple, and my mom was kind of sneaky, like even though she was kind of peer pressure to raise us as Catholic, like that's where we went to preschool, or she would bring us to like their summer barbecues and things. So I knew some people, but when we enrolled in Hebrew school, I went with my two sisters, and we're all grade apart, but they both had friends from our normal school in their Hebrew school classes, so they were okay, but I didn't know a single person. And I was immediately met with racism. I was they would like throw things at me. They would say things like really nasty things to me. They would make fun of my hair a lot. I was a lot darker as a kid, probably because I like actually went outside. So they would make fun of my skin. They used to lock me in classrooms. They used to lock me in a classroom that had like no windows and like only one door, and the lights didn't work. And so every lunch break when the teacher would leave, they would shove me in the classroom and like close the door, and they wouldn't let me out until it was over. And I would literally just like and now I'm like claustrophobic because of that. And I was just like a little kid. I was 10 years old. And then anytime I would leave to like go to the bathroom or run an errand, like the whole class would start talking about me to the Hebrew school teacher about how much they all hated me. But because I didn't grow up in that Hebrew school, and they had known these kids since like preschool, and they had only just met me, like the teachers didn't even stand up for me. And so I was just really on my own, and I'm like crying all the time of like, why is it so hard to be Jewish? Like, I don't get it. I thought my mom told me that we already were. Like, why do I have to fight for this? It didn't stop until we had like a brand new rabbi who came in by the time I was in like seventh or eighth grade, and he didn't know anybody, so he didn't care. Like there was no favoritism. He's like, this is racist. Like, I don't like this. But what usually happens is, so you become a bar bat mitzvah at 12 or 13, depending on the temple. And a lot of kids quit Hebrew school after that because you're considered an adult in the Jewish community. So I was the youngest of my entire class. And so when they all had their bar mitzvah services, they all quit one by one. And so we had a class of about like 20-ish students when I was like the whole time, or maybe like 15, I don't know. And in set from the transition of seventh to eighth grade, it went from like 15 to 5 of us. And throughout that year, it went from 5 to 3 to 2. And then it was just me. And I was in a class fully by myself because I was the last
Wow.
person to become bat mitzvah. And I never, like, I stayed until I graduated from high school. So, like, I totally understand what Margo is saying. And the only reason I didn't quit was because all of them quit first. And that's probably when I started feeling like that pride in my Judaism, because I was like, oh my God, they're not going to bother me anymore. They fully bullied me in regular school though, once we all matriculated to the same like middle and high school. But at the very least in temple, I was able to like finally ask all these questions that I had, like finally discover stuff about my Jewish identity. And like, you shouldn't have to wait them out. It's genuinely like BS that they're like, oh no, like just deal with it, deal with it. Like this is your life now. Like there should have always been more support. But I just waiting it out, I guess, worked for me literally just because I was the youngest and they all quit. And I was like, okay, now I can be Jewish in peace, kind of. So I've definitely been made to feel bad about my Judaism like every step of the way. But somehow it's worked out that I'm still here and Jewish and living.
What kept you motivated? Like, was it your mom and like encouraging you to like keep moving forward and like keep your head up high?
It wasn't my mom, because the thing is like my mom is actually, so like I said, both my parents are Puerto Rican. My mom's half white because she's Jewish. My dad's like half black, so it was always like super weird. My mom really just didn't like, she's still a woman of color, like she's still Puerto Rican. It's just it's very different because she looks like what you picture a Jewish woman to look like. And so there wouldn't be a lot of times where she would understand how I was feeling. I think it was more so my mom's very much the woman who's like, I don't raise quitters. Um, and because both of my sisters were going and we were only just a year apart, she's not like, she was never gonna be like, I'm gonna take your two sisters and you're not gonna go. And I think that at some point it was more so like she would tell me that I have to be stronger than those people. That because I've decided to be a Jew for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to deal with not only the racism I was always going to have to deal with, but also now the anti-Semitism. Like, this is kind of the burden that you take on, and that life isn't fair. Life isn't always very welcome, but this is who you feel like you are. You have to become strong enough to overcome people like this.
I love that. That's so important. That's so important. According to NBC News, EGOT winner Whoopi Goldberg made headlines in January of 2022 with her historically inaccurate statements about the Holocaust, which she claimed, quote, wasn't originally, end quote, about race in an interview with the UK newspaper, The Sunday Times. She has since apologized, saying, quote, it was never my intention to appear as if I was doubling down on hurtful comments, especially after talking with and hearing people like rabbis and old and new friends weighing in, Goldberg said. I'm still learning a lot, and believe me, I heard everything everyone said to me. I believe that the Holocaust was about race, and I'm still as sorry now as I was then that I upset, hurt, and angered people. If you did not know already, the Holocaust was a systematic, state-sponsored persecution and murder of 6 million European Jews by the Nazi German regime and its allies and collaborators. The Holocaust was an evolving process that took place throughout Europe between 1933 and 1945. Did you guys hear about this, and what were your thoughts? I'll start with Margaret.
I don't remember what she said. I remember being really confused. What did she say? Like that was in like considered anti. She said that it wasn't about race, right, or something like that.
That it wasn't about race. I think she said like it was white people against white people, and that you couldn't oh, I forgot it. But yeah, she said it wasn't about race. It was about religion, I think she said.
Yeah, I mean, personally, like I don't consider Judaism a race. I consider it ethnicity,
Okay.
um, uh, which is like controversial, I guess,
Yeah,
because you can't change your race, but you can like convert into Judaism. So that's my logic behind it. It's like you can't a white person can't convert into blackness. Like a
right.
black person convert to Asian or like to white if they want to. Like you can convert into Judaism, but you can also it's in your blood as well. So that's why I think it's an ethnicity and a religion. I think her point, like, kind of like I remember hearing it and being like, "What is she talking about?" But she was a little inaccurate about it because the Holocaust also affected people of color and gay people. It wasn't just Jewish people that were murdered in the Holocaust. Um,
That's a
so I
very
think
good point. Yeah. I don't think people know that.
people forget that like Black people were in there,
Black
and
people, LGBTQ, yeah,
yeah, and were in there. Like it was Jewish people and then Romanians, and then like everybody else, all the other minorities. So
right.
disabled people were put in there, but Hitler just didn't like anybody that wasn't a white German. So
Right.
we just have to. Her statement was incorrect. I think she can learn from it. If you don't know about something, don't say it live on television. That's my only thing if you don't have enough information. So I think like she messed up and she apologized and she needs to just shut up about the Holocaust until she, goes through years of education like many Jewish people do, or, you know, because I was
Right.
forced to learn about the Holocaust for many, many years because I'm Jewish and I went to Hebrew school. So my thing is she's like a little infactual on what she said, but I knew what she was trying to say. It just she didn't say it right.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, I understood what she was trying to say, but she just wasn't saying it right. And I think that like she just doesn't know enough about the Holocaust to be talking about it sometimes, you know.
Yeah, you have to be careful when you speak about certain things. For you, what about you, Sophia? What were your thoughts?
So I actually I knew that it had happened, but I didn't know the details of it either. I have like similar views from Margo is that I don't think Judaism is a race either. I actually in Hofstra used to study like criminology, and a big part of that is understanding like identity, social structures, power systems, and things like that, and the intersection of identity. So Judaism is officially considered like an ethno religion for exactly the reason that Margot said is that you can be Jewish by blood. Like there are atheist Jews because their whole lineage is Jewish, but they don't believe in God, but they still have that in their blood. They're Jews. If you take a DNA test, because a lot of Jews were forced to live and secluded communities, your DNA test won't say you're French, you're German, you're this. It'll say you're a European Jew. So it's definitely an ethnicity. Um, but you know, like you said, you can be a Black Jew, you can be a Hispanic Jew, you can be an Asian Jew. It's not a race. Like, it's what she said isn't like this, it's morally wrong, but it's not like on paper wrong, because it was like white people and white people. But the idea is that Hitler was so dehumanizing that he changed it from white people to like the pure Aryan Germans to like these dogs of creatures. And absolutely right, it was the LGBTQ community, disabled community, the Roma people, like all of that we don't take into consideration. But like, it's definitely never an excuse to diminish the harm that happened to the Jewish community in the Holocaust, because that is so huge and impactful, and something that all Jewish kids do have to learn in Hebrew school, like year in, year again. Like, I'm privileged to have spoken to so many Holocaust survivors in my life, because that's not a thing a lot of people can do. I'm privileged to come from Holocaust survivors whose struggle made me and my family like be able to live. But yeah, it's definitely in Europe. Like, I have a lot of friends who are born and raised in European countries. I met them through like exchange things. In Europe, it's different. In these countries where there's no racial diversity, there's no where there's no race talks, or there's very little, it's not an issue of like, you're not white, you're Jewish, because they're all the same race. Like, they're all in the same country. So that's why Judaism takes such a bigger impact there, because there's nobody else. Like, they're all German anyway. So the Jews are going to feel like a completely entire, like, different entity. The reason that we might not get that in America is because we are this huge racial melting pot where you have so many different groups that it's hard to kind of like weigh one over the other, because Jewish people can blend in with other like white Americans of different religious backgrounds, and Jews of color blend in with their own groups of color and are often not even identified as Jews. So, you know, she's not wrong in saying it's white on white. It's not right to say, you know, but it's not wrong. It's because in Europe it's just different. They're all like, almost all of them, like, they're all the same racial and ethnic background. The only differentiating factor is these people are Jewish. So like, it doesn't bother me that she said that. I definitely think it comes from an uneducated place. I don't think it came from a hateful place, but I really can't speak to someone else's intentions. I know that the Holocaust is a very touchy subject for a lot of people, especially because a lot of us come from survivors. But you know, I agree with Margo in saying like, it's not a race, because like, you can't convert your race. It is an ethnicity, because it has to do with culture, and it is a religion. You can be both, you can be one or the other. So, you know, that's just, I think that just depends on how people see it. But technically, yeah, it could be considered a white on white thing. It's just different in a non-American construct.
That's an interesting point. And for you, Shayna, what were your thoughts?
I honestly didn't hear about it. Maybe I did and I don't remember. I tend to live under a rock most of the time. But I mean, I agree though. I'm sure she didn't mean to say it with any malice intent. I think a lot of people are ignorant and just speak without fully knowing what they're talking about. I mean, like, I went through 9 years of private school and I still don't say anything because I usually don't know what I'm talking about. And I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Okay.
So I feel like maybe it's just a topic that, very few people should talk about, or unless you really know what's going on.
Right, especially if you're on national television. It's like one
Yeah.
of the highest viewed talk shows on television right now. I wish that I wish that after she said that and got all the backlash the first time, I wish the producers got together and like brought on Jewish leaders onto the show to do like some type of special. Because I know they do like specials, like they did a special for Black Lives Matter and Women's History Month. Also, they love specials in talk shows. So I feel like they should have had a discussion with Jewish leaders so that Whoopi and other people who are confused are now educated. Because that's all it really is, just doing your research, being educated, and giving a platform to people to speak truth and use their platform correctly. Like you have so many people watching. It's such a big platform. Invite people on who are part of this community so that they can, bring truth, bring light to this issue. Because it is it is difficult to talk about, but I always operate from a place of like you guys said, like don't speak on things you don't know about, like in public, you know. So ask a friend. Google's free, and but yeah, I kind of wish the View did that for sure. Um, do you think the lack of knowledge about Judaism and Jewish culture is a result of a lack of representation on screen or a lack of teaching about Jewish people in the U.S. school curriculum?
I think both. Um, I mean, I don't really know how you would bring it into the curriculum because I mean, like maybe we talked about it in world history in ninth grade,
Yeah,
but
for like two
I mean,
minutes.
yeah, but we didn't learn about like Christianity all that much. Like I don't know how you would bring religion into the classroom and still make it historical without having it be a whole different class. But I mean, I'm sure if it was taught, there'd be a lot less issues because I think the more people know, the less hatred they'll have. A lot of people still believe the very old rumors about Jews, like, oh, they like money and, this and that. But it's really because nobody ever told them, like, hey, that's not true. Like, that was never a thing. Um, I think though, like, so like New Girl, having Schmidt as a character, I absolutely love. And I love the things that he brings, like, about Judaism into the show, and I think that's fantastic. And I
I
feel like
haven't
more
seen the show. I
shows,
gotta check it out.
it's so good. But I feel like more shows have been doing that lately. They've been like bringing Judaism in, or like even just making it like seen, having characters celebrating like Hanukkah and Christmas, and like having a coffee shop that has up a menorah and a Christmas tree, and just like bringing general awareness to it. But I'm sure if there was more, there always could be more. I just don't know how you would bring it in. But I mean, like even I work in Mamaroneck in Westchester, and it's a huge Jewish community. I decorated our AT room with Christmas trees and menorahs for Hanukkah, and I had kids come in there like, "Oh, like, what is this? Like, what's Chanukah?" I was like, it like never
Wow.
occurred to me that kids in like Mamaroneck wouldn't know what Hanukkah is because they live in Westchester, and
Yeah,
I
that's
was
so
like, okay, interesting.
that's so
Someone needs to
crazy.
teach you.
That's so no, but that's good though. That's what we need. It's tricky though, because I remember I didn't learn about Jewish the Jewish community, Judaism in depth until I went to Iona Prep, which is a Catholic school, which is interesting because it's a Catholic school. But there was a religion class, and every I think every 5 weeks we learned about a different religion, and I think that was really cool. And we went like really in depth. And I was like, oh, I thought I would learn that at Universal High School, but with public school, but with public school, like you said, it's hard because I not that it's illegal, but I don't think it's allowed to spend too much time on religion in public school.
Yeah.
But then it's interesting. I learned so much about Hinduism and Buddhism and Judaism in a Catholic school, so I thought that was interesting. But Margot, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I only learned about Judaism because I'm Jewish.
Okay,
I was in a religion classroom. I took a religious class because it was required because I went to a Quaker school. So, I mean, I don't know how you would. I mean, I think it's the same way that you need a lot of other minorities to like history and culture to be taught in the classroom. I mean, in the history classroom, I mean, Jewish history is just the Holocaust, just as the Black history is slavery. We didn't have anything before slavery.
slavery, civil rights movement, and Obama. That's all.
Us-
That's all they teach. Like, wasn't there
Slavery,
stuff in between there?
yeah, there was nothing. There's nothing before slavery. There's nothing after. Oh, and there's more oppression after. But like, you know, it would be cool to learn about Jewish history, but it's just like so conflicting because I know people would be like, but then what about this history? What about that history? And like, there's so much that a history teacher can teach in a year, not even a year, 6 months or something. I don't know how long the school year is, but
Yeah.
I think you gotta just do it by little small things, like what Shayna said. Display it, display the culture, the menorah. Even though it's Hanukkah, like people don't know what Hanukkah is, people don't know what Passover is, people don't know what Shabbat or Rosh Hashanah, like, you know. So I think it's just like the small little of like when it's a holiday, just be like, hey, it's a Jewish holiday, or hey, this holiday is happening. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, for me, I remember like meeting Shayna and like our other mutual friend that was Jewish. I would just ask questions like, "Hey, what is that? Why do you guys do that?" I asked so many questions looking
You
back.
did, I remember.
Like, "Oh, what does that mean? Can you teach me something?" And I think there's nothing wrong with asking questions, asking your friends. Sometimes people go overboard, and I guess it just depends on your friend's tolerance and patience. That's why you can Google too, but there's nothing wrong with asking questions. I think people are if you're coming from a positive, respectful place, I'm sure people will, answer. What about you, Sophia?
Um, I actually, this is funny. When I was a Hebrew school teacher, because I had the oldest class, they were like 13-year-olds, they would bring in like current events. And one of them actually brought up the Jewish representation on Netflix, which was a really interesting article. And so, or just in the media in general, but that was the article they brought me. It was so funny because there isn't a lot. There just isn't. And when there is, it's like it's that mold. It's that very specific mold. So even like if you look at Schmidt on New Girl, um, Schmidt is like a white Jewish person who lived in Great Neck, which is Long Island, like very close to me, and it has like that very specific um lifestyle. And I feel like Judaism in media representations is always like the little like the same way there's like the stereotypical black best friend, the stereotypical gay best friend, and just like the little side piece characters like you don't even talk about. I feel like I think Schmidt was kind of like a lot better because he was a main character, but like they don't really delve into what it means to be a Jew. Or like there's 1,001 Christmas movies, there's one Hanukkah movie, it's Adam Sandler's Eight Crazy Nights. Um, he was the one to give it to us. Like it's just
That's
like of
crazy. I thought there would
course
be more. Wow.
there's one. Like I think there are some movies like more modern, like the Hallmark movies that come out like 20,000 every season, where it's like some of them are starting to be like, oh, he celebrates Christmas, she celebrates Hanukkah. But like I haven't watched any of them because they're not like big popular ones. But like growing up, there was literally just the one Adam Sandler movie because he's just here for the people, I guess. But
Or
yeah,
it's very
there's not a lot
surface
of Jews.
level. Like I remember I was watching a video where they spoke about Jewish representation on screen. I think it's called The Take, where they always dissect like tropes, and they mentioned
Mhm.
Rachel Green from Friends and how like it wasn't really spoken about. Like it was like thrown out there here and there, but it wasn't very like in depth her
Yeah.
character, her Jewish side of her character. So representation is important because then people
Yeah,
would
and even if you look
yeah.
at Friends, like I think or not Rachel, Monica and Ross were Jewish too, but they don't talk about it. There's like there's the one episode, I don't even remember when, where it's like the kid wants to see Santa Claus, but he's like, no, we're Jewish. And so he comes out in like a big armadillo costume. And he's like, I'm the Hanukkah
Yeah.
armadillo. Like which a lot of people then ended up thinking was a thing, like a lot of Jewish, like non-Jewish people, which was super awkward. Or like, but it's like, in terms of education, I actually did learn about Judaism in school, but it's all very in like a Eurocentric lens. I feel like in American high schools, it's like how things apply to Europe. So like that's why for Black history, it's the slave trade, or for Asian people, I think they only talk about like the opioid crisis that was brought in by I think Britain. Or for Latin America, it's like the big stick policy of colonization, and it doesn't talk about like the rich histories that any of these cultures actually have. And so in Judaism, when they teach it in history, they just teach like when the religion started. That's what they do. They just teach when the religion started, in what country, and then how it then progressed to then like Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, all that stuff. And so I did learn about Judaism, but it's weird because they only talk about one kind of cultural Jew, and that's the European Jew, even though the founder of like the founding tribe of Judaism was from Ethiopia. So it's like you don't really
Mm.
we don't talk about that, and it's not the Jewish representation that's beginning is not Jewish representation for all Jews. It's for Europe, European Ashkenazi Jews. It's for Jews that aren't going to look like me or Margot. And so it's like great that it's starting, but it's already starting in that super narrow way that is not going to represent the whole Jewish population, which in and of itself is an issue, I think.
Right, like have the Jewish representation on screen, but then also have diverse Jewish representation on screen, like we've been talking about. And yeah, I would love to talk to like a public school like principal or something. Like, can you incorporate religion in public schools, or does it have to be a private? Because I know private schools they can make their own rules and anything goes over there. But I think that'd be beneficial because we
Well,
spend so
mine
much
was
time on
public school.
Christianity. Oh,
Yeah,
yours is a public school.
I went to
Okay,
public school, and but we learned it like just chronologically. That way it was just like this is a human development, not we're not
okay,
talking about like religious kind of like pioneering. Like we're not trying to make you think anything. This is when the religion started moving on.
okay, like factual. Okay.
Yeah, and then like Spanish Inquisition or like the Crusades and stuff, like because you have to talk about that because that's historic things. So like there's definitely a way to put it historically. Definitely it's probably a slippery slope for a lot of people because people are very touchy about it. A lot of people don't even want to learn about different religions, but we're all human beings. We have to learn about each other in order to create an accepting world. So that would
Yeah.
definitely be a good thing to
Like
do.
when you go to college, you're gonna meet people who are not like you. Hopefully. When you go to work, there's people who are not all Christian or not all whatever you are. So that's important to be open-minded. Are there any museums, books, documentaries, or even films that you guys would recommend people watch to learn more about the history of Jewish people and the Holocaust and the community as a whole?
Holocaust movies are depressing.
I'm sure. I still haven't watched 12 Years a Slave. Me and my
I,
mom.
I can't even watch slave movies. Movies about slavery. I watch so many Holocaust movies. I read The Book Thief. I don't know how good that is. They made us read it. Didn't really read it. But honestly, if you Google Holocaust movies, they're all pretty much going to do the same thing of like make you cry and make you feel really sad. There's no joy in it. Um, I don't have really any recommendation. Actually, there's this one movie. Hold on, go to somebody else and then I'll share the.
And I feel like if someone wants to watch a Holocaust movie, it's the easiest thing to just Google like Holocaust movie. But what I really wish there was is like what you guys are saying, like the a movie or a TV show or something that shows that we're not just our struggle. The same way that like you can't water down all of Black history in 12 Years of Slave. Like you can't do these things. There needs to be more movies of different cultures that are like, it's not just about this horrific historical event. We're also a beautiful culture. We're also, a religion that has a rich history. And it's like I know that there's a Jewish, I forget what it's called. There's like a 4 hour movie about Moses. I think it's called The Ten Commandments. It's
Yes.
stupid long. Like I've only watched it once. I've
That's
only watched it once. That's what you were looking at. That seems like I've seen like Schindler's List, and I actually had the privilege, or not the privilege, because it's definitely sad that it happened, but I went on a trip when I was in high school called March of the Living. That's for Holocaust education. It is primarily for Jewish uh teens and young adults, but I think other religious groups can go if they send like proxies and stuff. And it takes place in Poland and in Israel. So they made us watch Schindler's List on the bus to where it happened,
Oh,
which was
okay.
weird because like you watch the history and then you're physically there. So the thing is like I wouldn't recommend watching Holocaust movies to anybody because like Margo's saying, like it's really depressing, and also because it doesn't, for some people still don't even believe it. Oh, I think there's a movie called Denial, which is about like a well-spoken like Jewish public speaker fighting against a Holocaust denier. I haven't seen it, but I want to. And there's movies about like the what is it called, the Hasidic community and like women breaking out of it, because that's its own thing, but I can't speak on that because I'm not in it. So like, but there are no movies that I know of. So like if anyone hears and watches this podcast, like please find me, tell me. I want a movie that's just about like this is a nice Jewish family or like a nice Jewish friend group, and they're about to have like a
Right.
really good time celebrating this holiday, or like they're having a really good life being Jewish people. And like sometimes it's hard, like sometimes you have those struggles, but that's not all we are. So like I don't have any recommendations because I wish we had better stuff.
Right. No. And for you, Shayna?
I will say though, to the point like we're not just our struggles. The Holocaust Museum, I haven't been to the one in New York City, but I think it's called Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust. I've heard really good things. I didn't go because I've been to the one in Israel a few times, Yad Vashem. Um, but I know they both like they show you through the struggles. They show you all the stuff about the Holocaust, but towards the end, it shows you all the survivors. It shows you all the things that like Jews in Israel has come to do. And it kind of is like that little glimmer of hope, like, yes, we struggled, but here we are, and this is all the things we've accomplished. Um, but The Boy in the Striped Pajamas I had to watch in high school, and that's the only time I ever would have watched a Holocaust movie because I read books in high school. We had people come in and speak to us at least once a year. Like it was everything about Judaism was so shoved down my throat. I was like, I'm not spending any more time learning about the Holocaust. I've had enough. And it's not something that like you want to sit through and that you enjoy. But
Right.
Night by Elie Wiesel is also a fantastic book. I read that in middle school. I had to read it again in high school, and it's a really, really good not movie book. But I mean, honestly, anyone who can get to a Holocaust museum, I feel like that's the best way to kind of immerse yourself in what it was.
Right. I went to one in DC, which was really like I learned a lot. Like it was really like wow, like okay, I didn't know this because again, like you're not taught in schools. And even if you and even after you watch the Holocaust movie for people watching, I think you should also just educate yourself about the community, about the religion. There's crash course. There's a episode on the Oprah Winfrey Show where she went to visit a black Hasidic family in Brooklyn. I thought that was really cool. She was like, "Oh my God, black Jewish people." It was like 2010, I think. So I thought that was good. The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, I watched with my mom a couple times.
But
Um,
also, I'm sure like there's recordings of Holocaust survivors talking to groups. I feel like that's also like one of the best ways because you learn so much from them and you really like from them talking about their experience and like really hearing from them like what they went through, what they've seen and like how they survived. It makes you feel a whole different type of way.
the
I don't
fact
know how to
that the
explain it.
fact that like those some of those people are still alive, a lot of those people are still alive is like crazy, and it's like it reminds you, or at least me, that wow, it wasn't that long ago. Like it was
No.
pretty recent, which is also kind of scary. But I think yeah,
We're like
definitely. Oh yeah, we're gonna
I was
say.
just gonna say we're like the last generation of people who are gonna get to actually speak to and see Holocaust survivors because they're all I don't know 96
Elderly,
like
very
late
elderly.
90s like they're not gonna be here forever.
No, that's scary. There is a guy, his name's Dove Foreman on TikTok. Him and his grandma, they like educate their viewers on the Holocaust and like the Jewish religion. And his grandma is a Holocaust survivor. I think grandma or great grandma is a Holocaust survivor. So I think it's important to educate yourself on the religion, on the community, and about this major genocide that took place. Because I think the more you learn your history, you won't say the more educated you are, the less you'll say ignorant things, and you can educate others, which is also good.
I have the two movies that I
Oh,
would
okay,
recommend. There
awesome.
are that I would not recommend watching them, but like if you're like, I should watch a Holocaust movie, feel what it's like to be a Jewish kid in Hebrew school, because I don't know, mine every Sunday I had to watch a Holocaust movie.
Wow.
We watched The Devil's Arithmetic and Life is Beautiful. Life is Beautiful will make you cry. It's very slow in the beginning, but then it hits and then it's like really effed up, but like really shows how horrific the Holocaust is. And
Where
the
can you
Devil's
watch
Arithmetic.
those? Does it say?
The Devil's Arithmetic, it's on Pluto and
Okay.
Amazon for free. Pluto is Life is
Okay.
Beautiful. The I would truly recommend Life is Beautiful. Like that one is actually like, besides the fact it's just also a good movie, um, but it also educates you about the Holocaust and about what happened before the Holocaust and what happened when the Holocaust started. and what happened to families and stuff like that. So um
Yeah, that's important.
I but it's really sad.
Also, I think I just thought of this because you were looking at, like, I think reading the books of Holocaust survivors are better than watching like movies that people make of it. Or even like reading Anne Frank's diary. You know, obviously she was not a survivor, but that's historically classic literature because it's of a little girl, little like 13-year-old girl who's perceiving the world around her with no hatred, no malice, just like understanding how her life is changing. So that's definitely a good read. And also, this is gonna sound so stupid, but I just thought of it because you were looking it up. Like, a movie I thought of that has the Holocaust mentioned in it, but is obviously not about, is like the X-Men movies. They make the main villain. I'm not even kidding. No, but listen. They make like Magneto. He's a Holocaust survivor, and they make him evil, and they make him like want to kill all normal human beings because he's like, well, normal human beings like killed my family in the Holocaust, and now that I'm a mutant, like I'm gonna kill all the normal human beings. And I'm like, why do you have to make the one Jewish guy
That's
the
weird.
one that has to go have his
Um,
own genocide?
Ooh,
Just
I
saying.
don't like
But I just
that.
thought of that right now.
I don't like that.
that's
I,
so
I'm
that's
I'm
up.
curious as to who the writer was. Like, was the
We're gonna have to
writer?
unpack that later, but it's just
Yeah,
something I just thought about of like they did that. They
that's
did that.
interesting. I don't know what to say to that.
Just food for thought for
Up.
everyone to process and consider.
I'm gonna sit with that. Okay, so could you guys break down Ashkenazi and Sephardic?
Yeah, so this was something I had to talk to my class about a lot because fun facts. I loved my job as an educator and I'm glad I got it. It was funny though, because when I got hired, they were like, we want you to teach these kids about the diversity within the Jewish community. But honestly, and this is gonna sound weird, like I would rather be like the token that you respect to ask questions to and educate than the token that you just like hate and throw things at. So whatever. I don't even care. Because when it comes from a good place of education and it means that you're gonna like shape young minds, like do it. I don't care. So and they were completely open and very much like received it well. But so there's not, those aren't the two categories. There's four.
Okay,
Ashkenazi is Eastern Europe, and that's the sect of Judaism that everyone thinks like all Jews are from. And it's like Russia, Germany, Poland, like that area. Sephardi is like um what is it? Sephardi is like Spain, Morocco, like places where the Jewish people are a little darker, like where they have their own customs. Like on Passover, there's so many things that Jewish people can't eat. I'm not Sephardic by the way, but everyone thinks I am. Because that's where like Spaniard and Hispanic Jews are from. Sorry,
okay,
trick people. But Ashkenazi Jews have to give up like everything, like every kind of like starch and stuff, like anything that rises. Sephardic people still eat rice. And so when I started keeping Passover, I'm like, I can't give up rice. I'm like, that's a big staple meal as a Hispanic person. And
Right.
my sisters were like, you have to stop acting like you're Sephardic so you can eat rice. And I'm like, I'm not acting like I'm Sephardic, but I'm also not acting like I can give up rice for that long. But there's also what's called Mizrahi Jews, and those are, I think it's Asia and the Middle East. So I think Israeli Jews count as Mizrahi Jews, but Israeli Jews are kind of like their own little squad. They're like, I'm from Israel. So they have like their own association with the religion and the culture, which I think is really funny. So that's Mizrahi Jews, is like Asian Jews and like that area. And then there's the founding Jews are the Ethiopian Jews. So
okay.
that's the founding Jewish like tribe, the founding Jewish people, which they're so overlooked. Um, and it's
Right, I
so
didn't even know
ironic,
that.
like yeah, like it's Ethiopia, like, and nobody talks about it. Nobody, so many people don't even know about it. And so it's so interesting that like us as like American Jews of color have to deal with this discrimination of like you're not Jewish because you're black, you're not Jewish because you're Asian, you're not Jewish because you're Hispanic. Meanwhile, like Ethiopian Jews have been out here the whole time.
Right,
And yeah, but so it's not the two categories, it's four.
it's
And
four.
I think, yeah, and I think in the from what I have learned, and I could be wrong, like other the other Jewish ethnic and cultural groups don't have the like Hasidic, Orthodox, conservative, and Reform thing that Ashkenazi Jews have. That's that's specific to Ashkenazi. If you're a Sephardic Jew, you're a Sephardic Jew, and that's it.
Interesting. Okay. There's no like levels of distinction. That's interesting.
From what I've been told, like I could be wrong. I don't want to like make a big blanket statement, but from what I've been told, because like I've met Sephardic Jews and I've asked them like, oh, so what are you like in terms of like your observancy level? And they're like, I'm Sephardic. That's it. Because they
Interesting.
have their own different cultural practices already. And so I think like I'm sure that there's different levels of observancy for every Jewish human being, but they don't put it in the categories that Ashkenazi Jews put it in.
Shayna and Margo, did you want to share anything?
No, you killed that.
Former Hebrew school teacher. Like,
Awesome. Awesome.
yeah.
So switching gears a little bit, growing up, what are some of your favorite Jewish traditions, and did you celebrate this past Hanukkah?
I did celebrate Hanukkah. I don't think I've ever not celebrated Hanukkah. Um, and it was actually nice to be home because since I'm working still in Westchester, I moved back home after college. So I
Right,
actually
right.
got to light candles with my family and the first time for 4 years, which I never really thought I would miss that much. But we don't really have any traditions that aren't like the distinct traditions. We don't have like any of our own, like doing Shabbat every week or doing Shabbat every Friday night, doing Hanukkah, celebrating the high holidays, making seders. But I definitely missed them when I was in school, and I never thought that I would. So even though they're not like traditions special to us, like they're still our traditions, I guess.
It's like nostalgic in a way.
Yeah, like I'll
Um,
be sad if I when I leave and I can't do them anymore. My family,
right.
my
Uh,
childhood.
it's nostalgic. It's nostalgic. It's a big part of who you are.
Yeah.
I always celebrate Hanukkah. Um, we have our Hanukkah party every year with my family.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, it was their first one since my grandmother passed away. So it was like weird and like a little sad for me, but it was like nice that we got to do it again because like the pandemic and stuff. And uh yeah, I mean, I will never not celebrate Hanukkah. I mean, it's not my favorite Jewish holiday. I think people assume Hanukkah is every Jewish person's favorite holiday because it's presents involved. Mine is personally Passover, the like very long Seder. But that's only because we do the kids version of the Seder because none of us are really that religious. So we're just like, we'll do the like 10-minute version Seder. Um, anyway, but um yeah, Hanukkah was nice, it was cute, and I did good with gifts this year. My family liked their gifts, so that's all that matters.
That's
But yeah.
awesome. I remember I was in Boy Scouts when I was younger, and there was these like rich twins who were Jewish and Christian. I think Jewish and Catholic. And I was like, wow, okay. And they got like PS5 on the first day, iPhones on the second day, and I was like, oh my God, I want to be Jewish. Like this is so cool. Until meeting, I think it was like you and Rebecca or you and someone else that were like, no, like it depends on the family. Like we don't all do that. Like they're clearly rich. And I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
I thought I
Yeah,
thought everyone was like that. So that's interesting.
I got
What about
potato
you?
No,
chips Hanukkah,
totally
so
got
like, really not. They were like, here's a bag of potato. My mom was like wrapped it. I was like, what is it? And I opened it and it was a bag of potato chips. I started crying from laughter.
I
Like
can't.
like you expect because I'm also a Christian, so I got Christmas gifts too, but like, you know, it's
Nine
not
nights of presents, but it's not what I think it is.
no.
yeah,
No.
only if you're rich it's really 9 nights. Yeah.
Okay. No, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And what about you, Sophia? What's your favorite
That
Jewish holiday? How was your Hanukkah?
My favorite Jewish holiday, I feel, is probably Sukkot. It's like the harvest festival that happens in the autumn, because you build what's called a sukkah. So that's just like an outdoor. I don't really know how to describe it. I feel like everyone kind of builds it differently, but it's just like an outdoor, not like a hut, but it's not supposed to have like a roof on it, and you decorate it with like different like what is it, like vines and fruits and vegetables, like and leaves and stuff, and like little kids can draw stuff and you hang it from it, and it's kind of made of like I don't know the material. It's like kind of like it looks like wicker, like it's the big white like kind of wicker thing. And then you have what's called like Shabbat under the stars, and you have Shabbat outside, and like you guys really look up it's about like appreciating nature. And then there's so much good food. Like the rabbi at Hofstra, Rabbi Diouf, he used to say like there are two kinds of Jewish holidays. It's like they tried to kill us, they succeeded, let's pray. They tried to kill us, they failed, let's eat.
Interesting.
And like that's so not like everything, but like so many of our holidays it's just like food. Like but yeah,
It's
so I
like your
really like sweet
Thanksgiving in a
both.
way, kind of like autumn, like Thanksgiving.
Yeah, because it's like a celebrating the harvest. But no, I definitely agree with Margo. Like I think so much of Judaism is seen in like a Christian or Catholic lens. Like when people call Hanukkah like the Jewish Christmas, like I would love to be getting presents like that. But like the staple, not every family even does presents. Like we didn't do it this year, but I think that's because we're like all broke early 20s coming out of college. So we're just like, no, um, no presents for you. But like the staple Hanukkah gift is like socks.
Socks. Okay,
So
interesting.
anyone who thinks that Jewish people are like balling and like getting what they get on Christmas is wrong. Because you get socks. And they're great. You know, normal socks, colorful socks, fuzzy socks, so many options.
So they're
But my
comfortable.
family, yeah, the beauty of Judaism. But my Jewish family just consists of me, my two sisters, and my mom. So we kind of we've just been winging our Jewish traditions like since we started being observant. Like there's so many holidays that we can't even celebrate because we're like if another Jewish family invites us to celebrate it, we do, but if they don't, we're like, I don't know how to do this. So we just don't. That's why I really have valued the time that I've spent in like Jewish organizations or like Hillel in college because it kind of supplemented the traditions I didn't have. But everyone in my family, we all live in different states now. So my Hanukkah was like was like a bunch of FaceTime calls
Oh,
of like lighting the menorah. Yeah, it was kind of sad, but we just my one sister lives like in Washington, the other was in Florida, and I'm in New York, and like so we're all just scattered. So we didn't really do anything, but we FaceTime each other and like said the prayer. And those things like that, that's what means a lot to me, I guess, in my faith, like the fact that it can still like connect you to your family even if you're so far away. Like the presents aren't really what is has ever been important to me. But in terms of Jewish traditions, like because my family is kind of like a new Jewish family, we just kind of wing everything. So we don't have any Jewish traditions, but I like the weird and funny ways that my family like decides that it's gonna be like our way of celebrating this holiday.
I love that. Are there games that people can play that and they don't have to be Jewish?
Yeah.
In the
Okay.
dreidel, yeah.
Um, yeah, anyone
Oh.
can learn. Anyone, it's dreidel is just gambling for chocolate, and I think that that should be open to everybody because chocolate is great. Um, or there's oh, what are the other games? I know another game, but it's also gambling, and I feel like personally, I don't think that that really fits our stereotype as Jewish people, but I feel like as
Yeah,
long as you gamble,
dreidel, like everyone's like dreidel, and it's like gambling, and I'm like, oh no.
it's gambling
That's
for
not good.
children. Like, yeah, because you use what's called gelt, and they're these like the chocolate coins and these gold wrappers. I
Oh
saw this
yeah.
comedian once, this like Jewish comedian, and he's like, you know, for people who have this stereotype of like loving money, we sure picked the best holiday accessory. Like we teach our children to gamble with chocolate coins.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
Also, I
you have
don't
to
know
find.
anyone who actually knows like what each is worth.
Oh, well, none means that you get nothing. I
Oh,
think
Gimel, you get it all. Shin, you
yeah.
you
get
get it
some.
all.
Oh, and Pei, you put one in. Okay, I do know them. I
Yeah,
lied.
I think Shin you get half. And I know
Yeah.
that Cervantes, I no, I feel like you have no idea what we're saying, but like,
Like I know
There's
the shape of
letters.
it. The
And
letters on
there's
the
yeah, there's letters on them. So it's like and it's an acronym. It's like the miracle happened here. If you're in
okay.
Israel, if
yeah,
you're in America, it's like the miracle happened there. And then
And then you spin it
yeah.
and then
yeah,
and then the chocolate coins.
yeah.
And then
Okay.
yeah, there's these little like mesh bags full of chocolate coins, and like we teach like little kids to gamble with them by playing Dreidel.
It's a
Yeah.
kids game. It's a kid.
It's a kids. I mean, anybody can play it, but that's how I learned.
That's awesome. And my last question for you guys, what does being Jewish mean to you?
Um, being Jewish to me means like family and a community and joy, because whenever I'm with my Jewish side of the family and like it's a holiday, it's a lot of drunk laughter, like just drunk laughter, and like, Manischewitz is the cheap Jewish wine, and not everyone likes it, but I like it. And it's also Dominican. It's also Dominican as well. It's
Okay.
the cheap wine. You can try it. If anyone wants to try it, try some Manischewitz. It's not everyone's taste, but it will get you drunk in 5 seconds. But it's a lot of joy and community and like family, and it just, it makes me happy. So being Jewish to me means happiness and community and joy.
Honestly, I think just it means having a sense of belonging and a community. I never really got that until I was older and had to actually like refine the community and kind of figure out like what I wanted Judaism to mean to me. But I feel very privileged that like I got the chance to grow up in a Jewish community, and especially after hearing you guys talk, I guess I never really thought about it because it didn't apply to me and I didn't really have anyone around me who had those experiences. But I guess never having to deal with like discrimination or anything like that. I mean, I always get the comments like, "Oh, you look so Jewish." And like, yeah, that bothered me, but like whatever. Like, okay, I have curly hair, I have a big nose. Like, you're stating the obvious.
Right.
But just having like it's a whole nother family to me. Like the friends that I have that are Jewish, I just can relate to them differently. Like we went to the same camps, we went to the same schools, like we got the chance to go to Israel together and we did all these things that not being part of the community, and if I were to have shut it out after middle school, like I had hoped to and then didn't, I mean I wouldn't have been able to have a lot of the experience that I did.
I think being Jewish to me, it's a lot of it is a time like it's a challenge, but it's also a point of growth where, I feel like I've become strong enough where I don't need to prove myself to people anymore. It gives me a lot of guidance. I think that for a lot of people, any religion kind of gives them that guidance. I don't think that, everybody needs religion to be a good person, but I've definitely benefited from having it in my life. It definitely does make me feel like I'm honoring my mother, honoring my family. um I confuse everybody, so it's like a constant, like it's like a little game to see like when they make that face so they're like, you're a Jew. So it's like it's a lot of emotions definitely wrapped up in one. But as I get older, I'm trying to just have a positive mindset and make being Jewish something that I can fully value despite the challenges that come my way of being a Jew of color.
Right. No matter how ignorant some people may be and the stupid comments that they make, like still having that pride. I can totally relate to that too. Like being a minority, we do face a lot of obstacles and hardships, but there is a beauty in like where we come from and the religion that you guys practice and the community that you guys are a part of. Like there's beauty in that, and there's people who fought and died unfortunately so that you can experience some of the things that you have today. I can relate to that. I'm sure people can relate to that too if you're a person of color or you're Jewish or Muslim. So I think that's important to have that sense of pride. And I'm sure people listening who like young people listening that are Jewish, they'll feel inspired by listening to like what you guys have to say this episode. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for joining me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I know
Yeah.
it's not always an easy topic to discuss, but I appreciate you sharing your experiences. Where can everyone follow you guys? Sophia?
I am, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I literally have zero social media. I just exist in the minds of my friends. I'm not, you can add me on LinkedIn if you want, like, but that's about it. Like, I have nothing else.
Detox, detox.
I'm off-grid. Like, you cannot find me actually.
And you, Shayna?
I guess on Instagram if you really wanted to, it's smgold_.
Awesome. And you, Margo?
My Twitter is very chaotic. It's Margo likes fries. If you want to see my very chaotic tweets, be ranting. And my if you desire to see no pictures of myself, maybe like three, I don't know. It's Margo Latty, MargoLatty.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And I want to hear from you guys. So if you're listening to this episode right now on a podcast platform, be sure to leave a rating on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you click the notification bell up top so you're notified whenever I upload a new episode. Thank you guys for listening. Have a good one.